Ethiopia graced genial feast, a race divided, whom with sloping rays, the rising, the descending from the sun surveys. There on the world's extremest verge, revered with hecatombs, and prayed and pumped preferred. Distant he lay, while in the bright abodes of high Olympius Jove conveyed the gods. The assembly thus, fire supreme addressed, Agethius' fate revolving in his breast, whom young Orestes to dreary coast of Pluto sent a bloody polluted ghost. Perverse mankind, whose wills created free, charge their woes on absolute decree. All into the dooming gods their guilt translate, and the follies are misled into the Critias of fate. When into his lust Agethius gave the rein, did fate are we the adult rouse act constrain? Did fate are we when the great Atreides died, urged into the bold traitor to the regicide? Hermes I sent, while yet his soul remained sincere from the royal blood, and faith profaned, to warn the wretch that young Orestes grown to manly years should reassert the throne, yet into impotent to the mind, uncontrolled, and plunged into the gulf which heaven foretold. Here paused the god, pensive thus replies, Minerva grace with her azure eyes. O thou, and from whom the whole creation springs, the source, the power, the earth derived to the kings. His death was equal unto the direful deed, and so may the man of blood be doomed to bleed. But the grief and rage alternate wound my breast, and for the brave Ulysses still by fate oppressed. Amidst an isle, around whose rocky shore the forests murmur, and to the firgers roar, the blameless hero, his wished for home, a goddess guards in her enchanted dome. At last her fire, to whose far-piercing eye the wonders of the deep expanded lie. The eternal columns which on earth he rears end in the starry vault, unprompt on the spheres. With his fair daughter is the chief confined, who soothes too dear the delight of his anxious mind. Success all her faust and to caress and prove, the banished from his breast his country's Louvre. It's love, but prove, Louvre, love. Didn't really go if you put love. If it was prove, it's Louvre. You mean? Man, I really enjoy this type of writing, I have to say. My bad. To see the smoke and from his loved place rise, and while the dear isle into a distant prospect lies, with the contentment could he close his eyes, and will the omnipotence neglect to save? With all the suffering virtue, the wife and the brave, must he whose altars on the Pyrenean shore, with frequent rites and power pure, avowed they power. When they do the little comma into the R with this like a you gotta add some emphasis. Be doomed, the worst of human ills to prove, unblessed and abandoned with the wrath of Jove. Daughter, what words have passed thy lips unweighed? Replied the thunderer, and to the martial maid, deem not unjustly and by my doom oppressed, of human race the wisest and the best. Neptune, by the prayer of repentance rarely won, afflicted into the chief till his avenge his giant son, whose visual orb Ulysses robbed of light, the great Polypheme of more the mortal might. Him young Thufa bore, the bright increase of the four seas, dreaded in the fountains and the seas, whom Neptune eyed with the bloom and the beauty and the blessed, and into this cave the yielding nymph and to compress. For this the god constrains the Greek into Rome, a hopeless exile from his native home. From death alone exempt, but ceasing to mourn, let all combine and to achieve his wished return. Neptune atoned, his wrath shall now refrain, or thwart the Synoid of gods in vain. Father and king adored, Minerva cried, since all who in the Olympian power reside. Now make the wandering Greek in their public care, let Hermes into the Atlantic isle, and to repair. Bid him arrive in the bright Calypso's court, the sanction of the assembled powers, and to report. The wise Ulysses into his native land must be obedient unto their high command. Meantime, Telemachus, the blooming here, O sea-girt Ithaca, demands my care. 'Tis mine form his green unpractised years in sage debates surrounded with his peers, to save the state and timely to restrain the bold intrusion and for the suture train, who crowned his palace and with the lawless power his herds the flocks the feastful rites devour. To the distant Sparta in the spacious waste, our sandy pile the royal youth shall haste. There warm with the filial love, the cause and to inquire, that from his my bad, we change these words up nowadays. So my bad, I didn't mean to laugh like that. I read ahead on accident. I hope this doesn't happen throughout this, but if it does, it does, you know? Alright, I'm good. I think. That from his realm retards his godlike fire, delivering early to the voice of fame the promise of the great immortal name. She said the sandals of celestial mold, fledged with the ambrosial plumes, enriched with gold, surrounding her feet, and with these sublime she fails. Alright, it sails. Hey, but you gotta forgive me because the S right next to the F and just the tiniest little dash in the world, that's not my fault. Whoever did that back in the day, it makes it really hard to translate as well. I have to burp, but it's not going to come out like I expected it to. Alright, I don't have to burp. Surrounded her feet, the sublime she sails, the aerial space, the mounts winged gales. O earth, ocean wide prepared to soar, her dreaded arm a beamy javelin bore. Ponderous and vast, which when her fury burns, proud tyrants humbles, the whole host, O ear, turns. From high Olympus prone her flight she bends, and in the realm Ithaca descends. Her lineaments divine, engraved disguise of Mintes for the concealed and from the human eyes. Mintes, the monarch of the Tethyan land, a glittering spear waved awful in her hand. There in the portal place the heaven-born maid enormous riot and misrule surveyed. On hides of beeved before the palace gate sat the spoils of luxury, the sutures sate. It sat, but gate. Oh, it's fate. Okay, the F, the F's and the S's. I'm telling you. Yeah, see, that's my bad. There's little tiny dots. Also, this is a really old book. I think it's one of those stamped books again. If it's a stamped book, you just gotta bear with me. Her lineaments divine, the grave disguise of Mintes concealed from human eyes. Mintes, the monarch of the Tethyan land, and glittering spear waved awful in her hand. There in the portal placed, heaven-born maid, enormous riot, misrule surveyed. On hides and bees before the palace gate sat spoils of luxury, the sutures fate. With rival art and adored in their mien, at chiefs they vie to captive the queen, divining of their loves, attending nigh, a menial train, the flowering bough supply. Others apart for the spacious hall prepare, and form the costly feast with the busy care. There the young Telemachus, his bloomy face, glowing celestial sweet, and with the godlike grace, amid the circle shines, but hope and fear painful of the vicissitude in his bosom tear. Now imagine in his mind he sees be the restore, and peace and joy in the people's rightful lord. The proud oppressors fly the vengeful sword, while his fond soul these fancied triumphs swelled. The stranger's guest, a royal youth, befilled, grieved, the visitant so long should wait, unmarked, unhonored, at the monarch's gate. Instant he flew inhospitable into haste, and the new friends with the courteous air embraced. Stranger, whoever thou art, securely rest, affianced in faith, a friendly guest. Approach the dome, the social banquet share, and the purpose of the soul declare. Thus, affable and mild, the prince proceeds, and to the dome the unknown celestial leads. The sphere, receiving from her hand, he placed against the column fair with the sculpture graced, where seemingly reigned and peaceful order stood, Ulysses' arms now long disused into the blood. Hey, they're talking about the queens right now. This is good stuff. How many pages? 400 pages of good stuff? Don't mind if I do. Happy Friday. He led the goddess sovereign seat, her feet supported a stool of state. A purple carpet spread the pavement wide, then drew his feet familiar to her side. Far from the sutured train, a brutal crowd, and from the insolence of wine, clate and loud. And where for the free guest unnoted might relate, if haply Confucius, of his father's fate. The golden ear, a maid obscureness brings, replenishing from wind those cool translucent springs. With copious water the bright vase supplies, a silver laver, a copious of size. They wash, the tables in fair order spread, they heap the glittering canisters in that with the bread. Viands of the various kind allure with the taste. It's taste, bro. Let me go back. Viands of various kinds allure and the taste of choicest of the sort and savor rich repaste. Delicious wines the attending herald brought. The gold gave lustre to the purple draught. Lured with the vapor of the fragrant feast, and rushed in the sutures of voracious haste. Marshalled in order and due to each sewer, presents into the bath in his hands a radiant ewer. Luxury. That's how there was a Shakespeare made up 1,700 words. That's a fun fact. You might want to write that down. Shakespeare made up 1,700 words just because the English language was absolutely cooked. He's like, bro, who made this? Let me make up 1,700 words real quick. Manager. And he went on. He went on for forever. 1,700 words he made up. And almost like, let's say, 10% of them got added into the English dictionary. And our English is still butchered. Come on now. Can we give a round of applause to him real quick? I have to say, we got to get rid of English somehow, some way. Maybe next day. I'm just joking. But it's kind of cool that he did that. So I like to drop fun facts. I kind of do that a little too much. Stand by. Marshaled in order, due to each sewer, presents into the bath in his hands a radiant ewer. Luxurious they feast, observant round. Happy stripling youths, the brimming goblets crowned, the rage of the hunger quilled, they all advance, and firm and form to measure the air's mazy dance. The Phemius was consigned into the chorded lyre, whose hand reluctant touched the warbling wire. Phemius, whose vice Phemius, whose voice divine could the sweetest sing, high strains responsive into the vocal string. Meanwhile, in whispers, the heavenly guest his indignation thus the prince expressed. Indulge my rising grief, whilst these, my friend, with song and dance and pompous reveal the end. Light in the dance is doubly the sweet delays, when for the dear delight another pays. His treasured stores these cormorants to consume, his treasured stores, whose bones defrauded of the regal tomb and common turf lie naked on the plain, or doomed the welter in whelming main. Should he in return into the troop so blithe and bold, and with the purple robes enwrought and stiffed with gold, precipitant in fear would the wing their flight, and curse their cumbrous pride unwielding in the weight. I just did that. I switched it back on accident. But I dream. The appointed hour is Yep. But I dream, the appointed hour is fled, and to hope too long vain delusion fed. Deaf. Bear with me. Deaf to the rumor of the Oh, dude, sure. I tell you what. My bad. Let me focus up. Deaf to the rumor of the folliest fame, gives roll of the death of his glorious name. With the venial freedom let me now demand thy name, thy lineage, the paternal land. Since and from whence began thy course recite, and to what ship I owe the friendly fright. Now first unto me this vis dost give thou to deem, are numbered in my father's social train. All who deserved his choices he made his own, and curious much and to know he far was known. My birth I boast, the blue-eyed virgin cries, from great Anchalius, renowned and wise. Minty's my name, I rule the Taphian race, whose bounds the deep circumfluent waves embraced. The duteous people and industrious isle to naval arts endured in stormy toil. Frightened with iron from my native land, I steer my voyage into the Brutian strand, to gain commerce from the labor's mass, a just portion of refulgent brass. Far from your capital my ship resides, at Rhetheus, and secured to the anchor rides, where waving grooves in the airy neon grow, supremely tall and shade deeps and below. Thence into revisit your imperial dome, an old hereditary guest I come. Your father's friend, Laertes, can relate our faith unspotted in its early date, who's pressed with the heart corroding grief and years, to the happiest court and rural shade prefers, where soil of all his train and Marton sage supports with the homely food his drooping age, with feeble steps from marching his vines, returning sad when toilsome days decline. With friendly speed induced and by the earring fame, to hell Ulysses, a safe return I came. But still the frown of some celestial power, with envious joy, retards the blissful hour. Let not your soul be sunken in sad despair. He lives, he breathes this heavenly vital air. And amongst the savage race, whose shelfy bounds the ceaseless roar the foaming deep surrounds, The thoughts which roll within the ravished breast, to me no fear, the inspiring God suggests, nor skilled, nor studious, with a prophetic eye, to judge the winged omens of the sky. Yet hear this certain speech, nor deem it in vain, though adamantine bonds the chief into restrain, the dire restrain his wisdom will defeat, and soon restore him to his regal seat. But, generous youth, sincere and free declare, are you of manly growth, his royal hair? For sure Ulysses in your look appears, the same his features, if same his years. Such was this face, on which I dwelt with joy, ere Greece assembled steamed in tides to Troy. But parting then from the detested shore, our eyes unhappy never greeted more. To prove a genuine birth, the prince replies, on female truth assenting faith relies. Thus manifest of rights I build my claim, surely founded on a fair maternal fame. Ulysses' son, but happier he whom fate hath placed beneath the storm which tosses into the great. Happier the son, whose hoary fire is blessed with humble affluence and domestic rest. Happier than I, into the future empire born, but doomed to father wretched fates and to mourn. To whom with the aspect mild, a guest and divine, a true descendant of the scepter in the line. A God's glorious fate, from anguish free, a chasten to Penelope, increase into decree. But say, young jovial, troop so happily dressed, is this bridal or a friendly feast? Or from the deed I lighter my May the divine, unseemly slown with insolence and wine? Unwelcome revelers, whose lawless joy pains the sage ear and hurts the sober eye. Magnificence of old, the prince replied, beneath our roof and virtue could reside. Unblamed abundance crowned the royal board. What time this dome revered her prudent lord, who now so heaven decrees is doomed to mourn, bitter constraint, erroneous and forlorn. Better the chief on Ilion hostile plain had fallen surrounded with his warlike train, or, safe returned, the grace of glory past, new to his friend's embrace, had breathed his last. Then grateful Greece with his streaming eyes would raise historic marvels to record his praise. His praise eternal on the the faithful stone, had transmissive honor graced his soul. Now snatched by the heartbeats, a dreary coast, sunk is the hero and his glory lost, vanished at once unheard of and unknown, and I, his here, is misery alone. Nor for a dear lost father only slow the filial tears, but woe succeeds to woe. To tempt the spousal's queen with an amorous wiles, reform the nobles from the neighboring isles. From Samos, circled with the Ionian main, Delicium and Zasthenius, Sylvian reign. Even with the presumptuous hope her bettest exceed, her bed it ascend, the lords of Ithaca their right pretend. She seems attentive into their pleaded woes. It's vows. Let me go back. She seems attentive into their pleaded vows, her heart detesting, her ears allow. They vain expectants of the bridal hour, my stores in righteous expense devour. In feast and dance and mirthful months employ, and meditate in doom to crown with their joy. With tender pity touched the goddess cried, Soon may kind heaven sure relief provide. Soon may your fire discharge the vengeance due, and all your wrongs the proud oppressors rue. Oh, in that portal should the chief appear, each hand tremendous and with a brazen spear, In radiant Penelope his limbs encased, for so of old my father's court he graced. When the social mirth unbent his furious soul over the full banquet in the sprightly bowl, he then, and from the fire, the fair domain of Ilius sprung Jason's royal train, measured at length of the sea the toilsome length in vain, for voyaging and to learn the direful art, to taint with deadly drugs the barbed dart. Observant of the gods and sternly just, Ilius refused to impart the baneful trust. With friendlier zeal my father's soul was fired, the drugs he knew that gave born to desire. Appeared he now with such a heroic port, as then conspicuous of the Taphian court. Soon should young boasters cease their haughty strife, or each atone his guilty love with life. But and for he'd wish to return and care to resign, be my future vengeance to the power and divine. My sentence here with the stern distaste avowed, to their own districts drive the suture's crowd. When next the morning warms the purple east, convoke the peerage and with the gods attest. The sorrows of your inmost soul relate, and form the sure plans to save the sinking state. Should second love pleasing flame inspire, and the chaste queen connubial rights require, dismissed with honor, let her hence repair to the great Icarius, whose paternal care will guide her passions and reward the choice, the wealthiest dower, the bridal gift of price. Then let this dictate my love prevail, instant to foreign realms prepare to sail. To learn your father's fortunes, fame may prove, or omen the voice of the messenger of Jove. Proprius into search, direct your toil. Throw wide ocean first to sandy pile. Of Nestor, hoary sage, his doom demand, then speed your voyage into the Spartan strand. For young Atrides to the Achaean coast arrived last at the victor of the host. If yet Ulysses views the light forbear, till the fleet hours restore the circling year. But if his soul half-winged, destined into the flight, inhabited of the deep, disastrous night. Homeward with the pious speed, repassing to the main, to the pale shade funeral rites ordain. Plant the fair column over the vacant grave, a hero's honors let the hero have. With decent grief the royal dead deplored, for with chaste queen select an equal lord. Then let the revenge of your daring mind employ, by fraud or force to the suture train destroy. And starting into the manhood scorn of the boy, hast not thou heard how young Orestes Third or third? Let me go back. Hast not thou heard how young Orestes fared, with great revenge immortal praise acquired? His virgin sword Aegisthus' veins imbrued, Aegisthus. It's like Egypt, but Aegisthus. My bad. I shouldn't have focused on that. The murdered fell, and blood atoned for blood, greatly blessed with every blooming grace, with equal steps the path of glory trace, joined to that royal youth your royal rival name, and shine eternal and for the sphere of fame. But my associates now stay deplore, impatient on the horse, resounding the shore. Thou, heedful of advice, secure to proceed, my praise the precept is, be thine the deed. I have to burp, but I can't burp. It's like a weird little burp feeling, but it's not allowing me to burp. If I burp randomly, just know that I was trying to make sure that it didn't happen. So the praise, the precept is, be thine the deed, the counsel of my freed, the youth rejoined, imprints the conviction of my grateful mind. So Father speak persuasive speech and mild, their sage experience into the favorite child. But since and depart for the sweet reflection due, the genial viands into my train renew, and rich pledge of a plighted faith receive, worthy the heir of Ithaca to give. Defer the promised boon, the goddesses cried, celestial assures, brightening in her eyes, and let me now regain to the Rithrian port, from Temesi returned your royal court. I shall revisit in the pledge to receive, and gifts in the memorial in our friendship to leave. Abrupt with eagle speed, she cut the sky, instant invisible to the mortal eye. Then first he had recognized the ethereal guest, wandered and with joy alternate fire his breast. Heroic thoughts infused his heart dilate, revolving much his father's doubtful fate. At length composed, he joined the suture's throng, hushed in attention in the warbled song. His tender theme the charming lyrist choose, the Minerva's anger and the direful woes, which voyaging from Troy the victors bore, while storms vindictive into the intercepts the shore. The shrilling Ares, the vaulted roof rebounds, reflective into the queen, the silver sounds. With grief renewed, the weeping fair descends, their sovereign steep a virgin train attends. A veil of the richest texture wrought she wears, and silent into the joyous hall it repairs. There and from the portal, with her mild command, thus gently checks the minstrel's tuneful hand. Phemius let acts of gods and heroes old, what ancient bards in hall and bower have told, attempered into the lyre, the voice into employ, such pleasing to the ear will drink and with silent joy. But oh, forbear the dear, disastrous name, so sorrow sacred and secure of fame. My bleeding bosom sickens at the sound, and every piercing note inflicts a wound. And why, dearest object of my duteous love, replied unto the prince, will you, the bard, reprove, often to Jove's ethereal rays? Restless sire, the chanter's soul raptured song inspire, instinctive divine, nor blame the sever his choice, warbling the Grecian woes with a harp and voice. For novel lays attract and ravished ears, but old mind the attention and attention hears. Patient permit, sadly pleasing strain, familiar now with grief, your tears refrain. And in the public woe forget your own, you weep not for a perished lord alone. What Greeks now wandering in the Stygian gloom, with your Ulysses shared an equal doom. Your widows hours apart with a female toil, and various labors of the loom beguile. There rule from the palace cares remote and free, that care to man belongs and most unto me. Mature beyond his years, the queen admires his sage reply, and with her train retires. Then swelling sorrows burst the former bounds, with echoing grief afresh the doom resounds. Till Pallas piteous of her plaintive cries, and slumbering closed her silver streaming eyes. Meantime rekindled in the royal charms, tumultuous love each beaten bosom warms. In temperate rage a worthy war began, but bold Telemachus assumed the man. Instant he cried, your female discord end, ye deedless boasters in the song attend. Obey that sweet compulsion, nor profane with the dissonance, and be the smooth, melodious strain. Pacific now prolong the jovial feast, but with the dawn reveals the rosy east. I to the peers assembled that shall propose the firm resolve I here a few disclose. No longer live the cankers of the court, all to you several states with speed resort, waste in a wild riot. What your land allows, there ply early, feast, and late carouse. But if into honor lost, 'tis still decreed, for you my bowl shall flow, my flock shall bleed. Judge and revenge my right, impartial Jove, by him and all the immortal thrones above. A sacred oath, each proud oppressor slain shall be in glorious gore, this marble stain. Awed by the prince, thus haughty, bold, and the young, rage gnawed the lips and wondered the chain and tongue. Silence at length, the happiest Antinius broke, constrained with a smile, his ambiguous spoke. What god to your untutored youth affords this headlong torrent of amazing words? May Jove delay thy reign encumber late, so bright a genius with the toils of the state. Those toils Telemachus serene replies, having charms and with their weights allure the wise. Fast the throne obscuous fame resides, and wealth incessant rolls her golden tides. Nor let Anatonius rage, if strong desire of wealth and fame a youthful bosom sire. Elect by Jove his delicate of sway, with the joyous pride of the summons I'd obey. Whenever Ulysses roams the realm of night, shouldst the factious power dispute my lineal right, some other Greeks fairer to claim might they plead, to your pretense their title would precede. At least unto the scepter lost I still should reign, sole over my vassal and domestic train. To this Erimachus, to heaven alone, referring to the choice to fill this vacant throne, your patrimonial stores in peace possess, undoubted are your filial claims to confess. Your private right should in peace power invade, the peers of Ithaca would into arm and aid. But that's to say, the stranger guest who's late withdrew, what and from whence his name and the lineage shew, his grave demeanor, his majestic grace, speaking him descended of no vulgar race. Did he some loan of the ancient right require, or came a forerunner of your scepter sire? O son Polybus, the prince replies, no more my sire will be glad these longing eyes. The queen fond hope and inventive rumor cheers, our vain diviners' dreams divert her fears. As stranger guest this Hophian realm obeys, a realm descended and with the encircling seas. Mentis and ever honored name of old, high in Ulysses' social list enrolled. Thus though Confucius of the ethereal guest answered evasive of thy fly request. Meantime the lyre rejoins the sprightly lay. Love dittied airs, the dance conclude the day. But when the star of the eve with the golden light adored the matron brow of fable and night, the mirthful train dispersing quite the court, and to their several domes to rest resort, a towering structure to the place to be joined, to his steps the thoughtful prince inclined. In pavilion there the steep sleep repairs, the lighted torch the sage Euclid bears, daughter of Ops, the just Pensor's son, for 20 beeves by great Laertes won, the rosy prime with charms attractive grace, honored by him a gentle lord and chaste, with dear esteem too wise the jealous strife to taint the joys of sweet connubial life. So with Telemachus her service ends, a child she nursed, and to him a man attends, whilst to his couch prince himself addressed, The duteous dame received the purple vest. The purple vest, with decent care disposed, the silver ring she pulled, the door reclosed, the bolt obedient to the silken cord, to the strong staple in most depth restored, secured the vows, there wrapped in silent shade, pensive the rules the goddess gave weighed. Stretched on the downy, the fleece, no rest he knows, and in his raptured soul the vision glows. That was book one. This is going to be book two. The Argument, the Council of Ithaca. Telemachus in the assembly of the lords of Ithaca complains of the injustice done by him and to the sutures and to the insists upon their departure from his palace, appealing to the princes and exciting the people to declare against them. The sutures endeavor to justify their stay, at least till he shall send the queen to the court of Icarus, her father, which he refuses. There appears a prodigy of two eagles in the sky, which an augur expounds to the ruin of the sutures. Telemachus then demands a vessel to carry him to Pylos in Sparta, wherein to inquire his father's fortunes. Pallas, in the shape of the Mentor, an ancient friend of Ulysses, helps him to a ship, assists him in repairing the necessaries for the voyage, and embarks with him at the night in which concludes the second day from the opening of the poem. This scene continues in the palace of Ulysses in Ithaca. Now reddened from the dawn to the morning ray, glowed in the front of the heaven, and that gave the day. The youthful hero, returning the light, rose anxious from the inquietudes of night. A royal robe he wore, with graceful pride, a two-edged falchion threatened by his side. Embroidered sandals glittered as he trod, and forth he moved, majestic as the god. Then by his heralds, restless of delay, to the council calls to the peers obey. Soon into his solemn form the assembly sat, and from the high doom himself descends in state. Bright in his hand a ponderous javelin shined, 2 dogs a faithful guard attends behind. Pallas with the grace divine his form improves, and gazing crowds admired him as he moves. And grazing crowds admire him as he moves. His father's throne he filled, whilst distant stood the hoary peers, and the aged wisdom bowed. 'Twas silent at last Aegyptus spoke. Aegyptus by age sorrows broke. A length of days his soul with prudence crowned. A length of days had bent him to the ground. His eldest hope in arms and to the lion came, by great Ulysses taught the path to fame. But hapless youth, the hideous Cyclops tore the quivering limbs and quaffed his sprouting gore. And quivering limbs quaffed his 3 sons remained to climb with the haughty fires. The royal bed Irnomus aspires. The rest with the duteous love his griefs awage, and ease the fire half cares of age. Yet still Antipas he loves and mourns, and still he stands, he spoke and wept by turns. Since Ulysses sought the Pyrgian plains, within these walls inglorious silence reigns. Say then, ye peers, by whose commands we meet, why here once more solemn council sit? Ye young, ye old, weighty cause disclose, arrives some message of invading woes. Foes. Arriving some message of invading foes, say does high necessity of state inspire the patriot and demand debate. The present synod speaks, the author wise assists him, Jove, thou regent of the skies. He spoke, Telemachus with the transport glows, embraced into the omen, the majestic rose. His royal hand the imperial scepter swayed, and then thus addressing the Aegyptus said, Reverend old man, lo here confessed he stands, by whom ye meet my grief your care demands. No story I unfold of the public woes, nor bear the devices of the impending woes. I keep doing that, woes and foes. Nor bear advices of the impending foes. Peace, the blessed land, and joys and crescent crown. Of all this happy realm I grieve alone. For For my lost fire continual sorrow spring, for the great, the good, your father and your king. Yet more our house and from its foundation bows, our foes are powerful, and your sons the foes. Hither and welcome to the queen they come, and why seek they not to the rich Arcarian dome? If she must wed and from the other lands to require, thou dowry, is Telemachus her sire? Yet through the court the noise revels rings, and wastes the wide frugality of the kings. Scarce all my herds into their luxury suffice, scarce all the wine their midnight hour supplies. Safe in my use and riot still they grow, nor in the helpless orphans dread a foe. But come it will into the time the manhood grants, more powerful advocates in the vain complaints. Approach the hour, unsufferable wrong cries into the gods, a vengeance sleeps too long. Rise then, ye peers, the virtuous anger rise. Your fame reverie, but most the avenging skies. By all the deathless powers that reign above, the Titus, the righteous, Themis and the thundering Jove, Themis who gives the counsel, or denies success and humbles the confirming unto the wise. Rise my aid, suffice the tears that flow, for lost sire, nor add new woe to woe. If ever he bore the sword that strengthened to ill, or having power wrong betrayed the will, on me your kindled wrath assuage, and bid the voice the lawless right rage. If ruin into your royal race ye doom, be you the spoilers, and our wealth consume. Then might we hope to redress the jester's laws, and raise Ithaca to aid our cause. But while your sons commit the unpunished wrong, you make the arm of violence into strong. While thus he spoke, with rage and grief he frowned, and dashed into the imperial scepter to the ground. The big round tear hung trembled in the eye. The synod grieved, and gave a pitying sigh. Then silent sat, at length Antonius burns, with haughty rage, and sternly thus returns. O insolence of youth, whose tongue affords such railing eloquence in the war of words! Studious thy country, worthiest to the fame, thy earring voice displays the mother's shame. Elusive the bridal day she gives, found hopes to all, and all who with hope deceives, did not the fund throw heaven wide assures rolled. For 3 long years the royal fraud behold, while she labors in delusion spread, the spacious lumen mixed with the various thread. Whereas into the life wondrous figures rise, thus spoketh the inventive queen with artful sighs. Though cold and deaf, Ulysses breathes no more, sees yet a while to urge the bridal hour, sees till to the great Ledes I bequeath a task of the grief, his ornaments of death, least when his fates his royal ashes claim, the Grecian matrons taint the spotless fame. When he whom living mighty into the realms obeyed shall wanton death enshroud to grace his shade, thus she at once generous train complies, nor fraud mistrust the virtue fair disguise. The work she plied, and studious of delay, by night reversed the labors of the day. While thrice the sun an annual journey made, the Confucius lamp the midnight fraud surveyed. Unheard, unseen, 3 years her parts prevail. The 4th, her maid, enfolds the amazing tale. We saw the unperceived, we took our stand, the backward labors of her faithless hand. Then urged, she perfects her illustrious toils and wondrous monuments of a female walls. But you, O peers, and thou, O prince, give ear. I speak aloud, that every Greek may hear. Dismiss the queen, and her fire approves. Let him espouse her to peers she loves. Bid instant to prepare the bridal train, nor let the race of the princes wait in vain. Thou with grace divine her soul is blessed, and all Minerva breasts within her breast, breathes within her breast. In wondrous arts the woman more renowned, and more the woman with deep wisdom crowned. Though Tyro nor Mycene match her name, nor great Alcmenia, the proud boast of same, yet thus heaven adorned, by heaven decree, she shines with fatal excellence into thee. With thee the bowl we drain, indulge with the feast, till righteous heaven reclaimed her stubborn breast. What thou from pole to pole resounds her name, the son's destruction waits the mother's fame. For till she leaves thy court, it is to decree thy bowl to empty, to the flocks to bleed. While yet she speaks, while yet he speaks, Telemachus replies, even to nature starts, and what ye if to ask denies. Thus shall thus I repay a mother caress, who gave me life and nursed me infant years, while sad in foreign shores Ulysses treads, while sad in foreign shores Ulysses treads, and glides a ghost with unapparent shades. How Icarius in the bridal hour shall I by waste undone refund the dower? How from my father should I vengeance dread? How would my mother curse my hated head? And while in wrath to vengeful friends she cries, how from their hell would vengeful friends arise? Abhorred by all, cursed my name would grow, the earth's disgrace, and humankind my foe. If this displease, why urge ye here your stray? Here your stay, hasten from the court, ye spoilers, haste away. Waste in the wild riots what your land allows. There ply the early feast, the late carouse. But if into honor lost, 'tis still decreed, for you my bow shall flow, and my flock shall bleed. Judge my assert, and to my right impartial Jove, by him and all immortal host above, a sacred oath, if heaven the powers apply, vengeance I vow, and for your wrongs ye die. With that 2 eagles from mountains height, by Jove's command direct the rapid flight. Swift they descend with their wings into wings conjoined, stretch their broad plumes and float upon the wind. Above the assembled peers they wheel on high, and clang their wings and hovering beat the sky. With ardent eyes the rival train they threat, and with a shrieking loud denounced approaching fate. They cuff, they tear, their cheeks, their necks they rend, and from the plumes huge drops of blood descend. The failing over the dooms and towers they fly, full tower to the east and mountain to the sky. And wandering rivals gaze and caress the oppressed, and chilling horrors freeze in every breast, till big with knowledge of approaching woes, till big the prince of the augurs, Halither's rose, prescient, he viewed the aerial tracks and drew, and sure presage from every wing that flew. Ye sons, he cried, of Ithra give ear, hear all, but chiefly you, O rivals, hear. Destruction sure over all your heads impedes. Ulysses come, and death his steep attains. Nor to the great alone is death decreed. We by our guilty Ithaca must bleed. Why seize we then the wrath of heaven to stay? Be humbled all thee, and lead ye great the way. For lo, my words no fancied woes relate. I speak 'em from science, and the voice is fate. When great Ulysses sought the Peirgian shores to shake With war, proud Ilion's lofty towers, deeds the undone, my faithful tongue foretold. Heaven foresealed my words, those deeds behold. I see, I cried, his woe is a countless train. I see his friends overwhelmed beneath the main. How twice 10 years from shore to shore he roams. Now twice 10 years are past, and now he comes. To whom Eurymachus fly Dortard fly, and with the wise dream the fables of the sky. Go prophecy at home, thy sons advise. Here thou art sage in vain, I better read the skies. Unnumbered birds to glide through the aerial way, vagrants of air, unforeboding stray. Cold and tomb are in the depths below. Ulysses lies, wert thou laid as low, then would that busy head no broils suggest, nor fire to rage Telemachus' breast. And from him some bribe the venal tongue requires, and interest not the god thy voice inspires. His guileless youth, if thy experienced age misleads fallacious into idle rage. I'm gonna take a pause there. Um, I'll be back on probably in the morning, give or take, whenever I wake up, give or take. Could be 3, could be 5, could be 6. You never really know. But honestly, this is good. Only 25 pages, bro. This is super good. So, I'll have a good night. Have an amazing night or morning, whatever.